the first thing he wanted to do was to get cinnamon. So he took up a load of cinnamon from the Sultan of Butuan, and he immediately sent it to the first ship back to Mexico. And they were all very excited about it. But he also sent one of his captains to Zamboanga because they heard that there was so much cinnamon there. So Mateo Sanz unfortunately died, but they came back with a whole load of cinnamon. So Legazpi shipped all that by the galleon. So this was the start of the first galleon trade there. So I just dug up this image from the web. And so this really opened up the first transatlantic trade of cinnamon. But the interesting thing is most of the cinnamon that was then traded over the 250, 300 years of the galleon trade didn't come from the Philippines. It was traded by the Portuguese to the Spaniards and then sent back. So they were able to, if you like, flood the market or reduce the impact of the Spaniards by doing that. So they made double money from the Spaniards. But the Spaniards were very excited. They said they want to break into the market. So the second governor of the Philippines at that time said, well, let's try to do something about it. So he sent this amount, this 8,000 pounds of cinnamon to the royalty house, and also 3 flasks of cinnamon water for the Queen of Austria, just to show them that there was so much cinnamon. And as you can see there, there's this interesting piece of information there that, it really was worth a lot of money. So it literally was this equivalent of gold dust that came from the cinnamon trade. But it was very, the Dutch were very clever. They managed to infiltrate the Spanish market by selling it to the Philippines and off to Mexico. And just as an aside, one interesting thing is, it's very exciting to think that when the first batch of cinnamon that came from the Philippines to Mexico happened, one of the things that, if you like, made an impact on Mexican cuisine was cinnamon. You just think chocolate, the tablea, they mixed with cinnamon, and the Mexicans really started drinking chocolate drink with Philippine cinnamon. But then that was obviously substituted by the Portuguese product. But, this is something that's also worth exploring. But then, cinnamon really was worth a lot of money. An Englishman in 1761 decided that he'd like to try to develop the cultivation of cinnamon in the Philippines, because also Ceylon or Sri Lanka at the time was very successful in cultivating cinnamon, and which they were selling in a more standardized and regular manner to the European market. So Nichols was given approval by the royalty house to cultivate cinnamon. So he went to Mindanao. He took some cuttings, and it was interesting because he understood that the leaves and the bark of the cinnamon from Zamboanga was just as good as that one from Ceylon, which was the top value one. It had the same taste and chocolate flavor mixed with Mindanao cinnamon. However, the tragedy was he died a year after. He died in an accident when he was exploring. So this is from the writings of the historian Francisco Magliari. It was written in 1974. However, his assistant 15 years later decided that he'd continue on with the project. So Francisco Salgado started raising cinnamon. He took cuttings from Mindanao and he planted it in Calauan near Laguna. So it's, as you can see, there's a map of Calauan there.